3-step rhythmic breathing, and then start. Good evening. Um, I mean, age-wise, this time we have a very big range. Uh, so my idea this time was that we take one subject in the morning at 10:30, and we have an open discussion about it, what people have understood about it. Everybody is allowed to say what they want to say. Uh, and then we'll come to a certain, what you call, uh, resultant in the end, and try to define the concepts which we are talking about. Is that agreeable with everyone? That is the first thing I wanted to ask. Is it agreeable with everyone? Right? Okay. Uh, so, from your side, are there any topics which you would like to cover?
We've got some suggestions on the group.
Hmm.
Does anyone want to speak from here? Please just raise your hands. We'll give the mic. Yes.
So how do we solve decision paralysis? When we have decision paralysis, how do we I don't understand what to do when I don't know what decision to make.
How to make a decision,
Yes.
right? Okay. Are you doing the exercises, refining exercises? Huh? I can't hear.
He started from today.
Well, wonderful. Right. But you have to slow down, yeah? You're a Tufan male. Huh? Right? You have to slow down. Right? How will you experience life? How will you enjoy life? How will you digest life if you just move so fast? So let's say the same thing in a very, what do you call, nice and slow way. Come on, again.
So I have trouble making a decision.
You have a trouble making a
Decision.
decision.
I don't understand that if I had gone with the other choice, what would have happened, and if I made the right choice or not.
Whether you made the right choice or not. So, okay, so we'll talk about this decision making, how to make decisions. You know, it's very rare that I make a decision. Very, very rare. Uh, it's not that there are not multiple choices, but I always know that the right decision for me lies in some higher mind. And I try to connect to that higher mind and allow the right decision to come down. So I don't have to use my thinking or my reasoning or anything to make a decision. I always put it on the side and I empty the mind completely and I allow something higher to decide for me, and the decision enters my mind, and then I take it. Then there's nothing either. There's never any question of whether there was another choice or not, or if I had taken another choice or not. And this is something which I've developed over many years, right? So many times we feel we are making a decision. We are not making the decision. Our decision lies somewhere. We have to allow that decision to flow down to us. So try to calm down, meditate a little, right? And then have some trust in something higher. It could be God or anything, right? A higher intelligence. And you request that higher intelligence to send the decision down to you. And it's always the right decision. Right. Okay. Uh, any other topic which you would like to cover?
Many people have suggested the topic of Omkar.
Okay. Uh, so we'll take Omkar. It's a very deep topic, and because I don't know whether, but if at any time any of you feel that you're not, what do you call, can make me repeat it 2, 3 times, 4 times, whatever you find necessary, right? So we'll take Omkar. One topic is of Omkar. Then
Rajan bhai, can we talk about conscious sleep? How to make a success, or
I think many times we have already talked about it. You want to talk about it again, consciously? I don't mind.
a communication, successful communication?
Okay. I wanted to take some basic concepts this time. What is consciousness? What is attention? And what is will? That is the basic. Everything starts from there, from those three, right? So you write down these three words, right? Consciousness, attention, and will. So do some homework on it. We'll start with this tomorrow. What are these three things? What are these three things? Uh, uh, the, Gurdjieff calls them as three fundamental faculties. So we'll have to understand what he means by that. What he means by that. So you prepare something and then we'll talk about it. Tomorrow we'll talk about that. So that is the basic thing. Why is it basic? Can anyone tell me why is it basic? Why is it so basic? And I would like people who have been attending my talks for quite some time to sit at the back, right? And the youngsters, and give them a chance to answer. Don't you know the answer? Don't immediately put in the answer. If I ask a question, yeah, let the youngsters answer the questions. Yeah, okay. Why is it fundamental? Why is it fundamental? What is our purpose of taking birth? Why does the soul want to take birth? What is the, what do you call, uh, purpose of the soul seeking a human body? Why does he look for a mother and father so that he can come into a human body? What is his aim? With what aim does he come? Does he come to, gather a lot of degrees? Or does he come to become very famous? Or does he come to earn a lot of money? What is the purpose of the soul in seeking a mother and father? Huh?
Rise in consciousness.
To rise it
Consciousness.
consciousness. So the only purpose for taking birth in a human form, right, is that the soul wants to gather something called consciousness. So when the person is born, he's at a certain level of consciousness. And when he dies, he's at a certain level of consciousness. Now, what can you tell me about these 2 points in our life? The point of birth and the point of death in regard to consciousness. What usually happens? What usually happens? 99.9999%, 110% of the time.
We don't remember to rise in consciousness and then we fall back.
Yeah, that is there. But here the soul is born at a certain level of consciousness. Does that soul die at a lower level or does he die at a higher level?
Lower level.
Always at a lower level. Always at a lower level. Can you see the purpose of taking birth is to gather something called consciousness? And at the end of life, we've not gathered any amount of consciousness, right? We may become very famous. We may have done good deeds, right? And we may have gathered a lot of money. We may have been so many friends and enjoyed life and etc. etc. But at the moment of death, most people, nearly all, they are at a lower level of consciousness than what they came in, right? And that's the end of the story over there. Yeah, please go ahead.
Do we have a metric to gauge that if we have risen in consciousness?
Hmm?
Do we have any metric to gauge that how much we have risen in consciousness? Something like that. Like
It's very difficult. Very difficult because only a person who has risen in consciousness has the eyes to gauge, right? And that's very difficult. So nobody can claim that they know. But a person knows within himself if he has made any effort towards consciousness, he knows where he is, in which kind of water he is standing, right? So that is why the first word we are going to understand is consciousness. Consciousness. Right? So do some homework on that. Second word is attention. And the third word is will. Third word is will. Right? So we'll talk about that tomorrow. morning. Okay, any other subject now you want? Let's see. Let's see. I don't think it has any place over here in this camp just now, right? But in between the talks, we'll talk a little bit about electrical fields. Yeah. Okay, now something else which Gurdjieff says. What prevents a man in rising in consciousness? What is it that prevents a man in rising in consciousness? He has one word for it. Anyone can tell me that word. Identification. 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 So we'll talk about what is identification, right? And the basic practice which goes with identification is the practice of non-identifying. So what is the practice of non-identifying? Right? Huh? No, even before you start observing, even before there is this practice of self-observation, there is the very elementary practice of non-identifying. Very elementary practice of non-identifying. Right? So we'll talk about that. Then we'll go to self-observation. Right? Now, when he uses the word identification, right, he says something that there are many forms of identification. So there's a whole encyclopedia of what are the forms of identification. What leads to identification? Or what is the resultant of identification? So, the biggest form of identification is something which Gurdjieff calls as internal considering. Internal considering. So, we are going to talk about internal considering, right? So, before we start, tomorrow we will talk about the 4 levels of consciousness, right? And then we'll start our what you call journey on what is consciousness. Anyone else wants to say anything? Anything? We'll make a map of what is consciousness, right? Anyone else wants to say anything? No one else? Everybody's enlightened already, right?
In one of the previous sessions, you had correlated the refining exercises with the Mahabharata. At a smaller scale, it works on our body. If you could go a little deeper into that, the first, second, all the exercises.
Okay. Are all of you all familiar with the Mahabharata? How many are not familiar with the Mahabharata? The problem lies here. So if I start talking on something which you've not seen the serial Mahabharata? Amit, your daughter has not seen the serial? Huh? You've seen the serial? She hasn't seen the serial. So it will be a little difficult for those who don't have any, what you call, idea what the Mahabharata is. Right? So I can try, but it will be a little difficult in this way.
Whenever later you find feel correct.
The next Shibir is on Mahabharata. As soon as this camp ends, same evening we are starting a camp on Mahabharata. Right. So we can take it there. Right.
I
Yeah.
can follow that online.
Okay. What else? How many of us are practicing the Omkar? Sunday to Sunday? Ne? Yeah. Right.
Hello. Sir, you have detailed about Omkar and Gayatri Mantra many a times. But if you could just somewhere compare and give, not compare, but what helps in a seeker's life and in the same talk. Like at what stage what Gayatri Mantra would bring what effects versus the Omkar.
Yeah, but the problem, you see, there's so many new youngsters.
Right.
Now, I don't even know if they've heard of the Gayatri Mantra. Have you heard of the Gayatri Mantra? Huh? See, they've not heard of the Gayatri Mantra. So we have to find some middle path, no? Right. Omkar, you've heard of Omkar. You've heard of Omkar? What is Om? You've not heard of that also. Because it's not that I don't want to talk about it, but the problem is this, that we'll have to find some middle path over here. Right? Anyway, when you meet in the afternoon, you just discuss it and see which way. I don't mind talking on the Gayatri Mantra. And Omkar, we will take one session on Omkar, complete on Omkar. Right.
Can we do some on Bij mantras? Bij mantras.
No, that would be too deep. We can't talk about Bij Mantras.
Rajan, what about, we've never spoken about Om Sat-Param as the mantra. Is there a reason to it, or like just in general? I mean, we've spoken about Omkar and...
No, it is called it is Suryodaya and Surya Asta mantra. I think I've talked about it.
Okay, no, maybe I haven't heard them. Yeah.
Okay, then I'll take that.
Okay.
Let's take it now, so you can go back home and practice, in your room and practice, right? So, right? Om Satyam. Satyam is the truth, right? Param Dhimahi. Param means the absolute truth, right? Om Satyam Param Dhimahi. Dhi is we are meditating upon. All of us are meditating upon the absolute truth. Om Satyam Param Dhimahi. And let that absolute truth reveal to us what it wants to reveal. So the story goes that the rishis first, this was the first mantra which the rishis conceived of, right? Before there were any other mantras, this was the very first mantra which the rishis conceived of, and it is the original mantra. So they sat in meditation with this one aim. I want to know, I am meditating on the truth, but not just the truth, the absolute truth. Param dhimahi. Satyam param dhimahi. So the story goes that sometimes stories are more factual than facts, right? The story goes that the rishis got an answer. The rishis got an answer. So they were meditating on that absolute truth and they were saying this mantra, Om Satyam Param Dhimahi. So they were saying it and living it at the same time, right? And that absolute truth, it started revealing what it is to the rishis. And it started revealing in a higher sound, normally which cannot be heard by this ear. You need an inner yogic ear to hear that sound. So through that yogic ear, they heard the sound and they wrote it down. And the first, set of what we call scriptures, we won't call them as books, scriptures which were written down were the four Vedas, right? So they said this mantra. This was the first mantra which was ever conceived, and by repetition of this mantra, the absolute truth, it tried to reveal itself, and it revealed itself in the four Vedas, right? And then it went on to reveal itself in all the 108 Upanishads, right? So the four Vedas and the 108 Upanishads were the resultant of this mantra, right? So that hearing of that absolute sound, right, that is called a shruti, right? To be able to hear that absolute sound is called as shruti. And so the Vedas and the Upanishads, they are known as shrutis, because that word of that absolute, that word of Satyam Param Dhimahi, that word, the rishis put it down without any interpretation, without any addition or subtraction, right? Later on, there were some people who were able to hear that original sound, Shruti, but their mind was not at that level of hearing that absolute sound, and so a lot what came down in that was mixed with memory. That is they added something of their personal to it, and those are called as smrutis. So the original which there is no addition, they are called as shrutis, and those which, and this is the whole complete compendium of the Hindu thought, right? So it is composed of two parts, the smrutis and the shrutis and the smrutis. So what we are going to do is today we will go to bed at night and we first allow a little bit of sleep to come, and then we will very softly within ourselves repeat this mantra, Om Satyam Param Dhimahi. I want the truth, the absolute truth, and nothing else. Now, between that absolute truth and between our ordinary eyes, there is only one, what do you call, curtain. There is only one veil, only one blinder, right? And that is the blinder of memory. Huh? Memory, deep memory, sanskar, what they call it. Now, when we are going to sleep in the night, as we start falling asleep, all the memory patterns which we are holding on to, at a certain point they go into suspension. They have to reawaken when we get up in the morning. So for a certain point in time, those memory patterns are in a state of suspension. And at that moment, when there is no covering from that on that truth, we have to do it when we are feeling sleepy. If you are doing it wide awake, all those curtain is there only, right? So you have to do it as you fall asleep. The curtain starts, fading away, and then you're saying this mantra, Om Sat-Param, right? And you say it at that time, and if it is said rightly, you will get a glimpse of that truth beyond the curtain of the mind, right? Something, the curtain beyond the body-brain systems, right? Oh, something, you will get a glimpse of that. And once that light touches you in your life, you can never be the same person again. It will radically change you. So what you do is go to bed, start falling asleep, allow sleep to come a little. As soon as you're feeling a little sleepy, you start saying this mantra. You have to say it for a couple of minutes only, maybe 3 to, you won't be able to say it longer, right? And doesn't matter if you're saying the mantra and you go to sleep, right? Now there's a right attitude with this mantra, right? Because here there's the whole of spirituality is just unraveling one big riddle, right? And that riddle is you have to, what do you call, experience something which you already are, right? So we are already that supreme truth. We don't have to go to look for that supreme truth, right? We are already that. Only we have forgotten. Somebody used the word forgot, right? And so what we are looking for, we already are. This riddle, right? So in that moment where the curtain withdraws a little and you're saying this mantra, you'll realize your true original nature, what you are, where you've come from, and what is the deeper mystery of life, the deeper mystery of living. So say it for a few minutes while you go to sleep at night. If nothing happens, don't worry, go to sleep, right? Again in the morning, when you wake up in the morning, don't wake up. Don't wake up. Keep your eyes closed. Don't immediately open your eyes, right? And the minute you wake up, look within, move through your body, and you'll sense that it's not just you who are waking up. All your memory, all the cells of the body, the functions of the cells of the body, right? The inner energies are starting to move, right? In that in that deep sleep, the cells had forgotten their functions. Now they're again remembering, right? The energy is moving, and you sense all that, right? And hold on to sleep a little, because sleep is our key to breaking the veil. And again you say for a few minutes, Om Satyam Param Dhimahi, right? And say it again with the right attitude. Right? I don't want anything in life. I don't want money. I don't want fame. I don't want degrees. I want nothing. I only want the absolute truth and nothing else. Right? And if your cry from inside, if that cry is in totality, you really want it, if it comes from the right attitude, then it will come to you. You'll be able to experience that. So this is called the Surya Uday or Surya Ast mantra, when you go to sleep and when you wake up in the morning. Right? You know the very famous story of Layla and Majnu, right? And what do you call? Layla is lost, and Majnu is roaming all over the forest and shouting, Layla, 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 right? And there's this person and comes to him, okay, it's so dark, there's no way you will, even if you see Layla, you won't be able to recognize her. At least stop shouting now and start in the morning. So Majnu says yes, and again then he goes shouting, Layla, Layla, right? So that attitude has to be there. I want Layla, Param Satyam Dhimahi, and nothing else in my life. Everything in life is subordinate to that. And if that totality can come in saying that mantra for a few minutes, either early in the morning or at night when you go to sleep, right, you will experience what people take lifetimes to achieve. People go to the Himalayas and people go to gurus and people read all kinds of stuff and still they don't get it. You will get it. Okay, so that is the mantra Om Satyam Param Dhimahi, and you can start from tonight. Right? Anyone wants to ask anything? Okay, we are good. Right? Anything else? So we'll meet at 10:30 in the morning. Please, what time is the refining?
Refining is at 6:15.
Please do come for the refining. Right? Who's taking the refining?
Nikita.
Nikita is taking the refining. Okay. Right. Okay. All the best. Really great to have you over here. And I hope we have a wonderful camp together. Thank you. Good night.